What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel, episode 10 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure to smash the subscribe button and smash it good for us, all right? Hit the alert so you never miss a show. And for all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're the first in line when the newest episodes drop. The Flyers were obviously home for their last game on Monday, and we're going to talk about that game, but they're hitting the road, Jack. They're flying up to Ottawa. They also play the New York Rangers sometime in December or January, and our friends at Fans of Philly are taking the trip. Jack, what can you tell us about Fans of Philly?
Well, Flyers fans, we have something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Fans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to team to putting together unforgettable travel packages for the die-hard Philly sports fan. Why Fans of Philly, you ask? Let me break it down for you. These guys have spent years building the best relationships with bars, hotels, teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better, and trust me, they'll make sure your experience is top-notch. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel, finding the hottest nightlife, or securing the best seats in the arena, Fans of Philly has it all figured out. They know how to make your trip an absolute blast. So head on over to fansofphilly.com. That's fansofphilly.com. And book your next Flyers road trip today.
Thank you, Jack. Very good. And you feeling better this week, huh?
Yes, it's gone. It's over with. Back to 100%.
Good.
Thank God.
So we got a big show on tap for the listeners and the viewers. We're going to do something a little bit different tonight. I'm going to announce it now so we have an entire show worth of this. But we're going to try to get Jack drunk tonight. And Jack, I think you have a little something you're sipping on tonight there. And how we're going to do this, guys, this is all up to you guys. So if you guys want to get Jack drunk, what he's going to do is he's going to do a shot every time there's a super chat or a super comment. Is that what that's called, Jack?
I believe it's called Super Chat.
And so Jack will take the shot, but whatever the comment is, obviously we'll talk about and bring up your comment. So it's an hour-long show. We're 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the show. Let's see how drunk we can get Jack tonight. But so let's get started with our topics and the big one. And no, it's not Morgan Frost being benched. That's not the big topic anymore now that Matvei Michkov is on the team. We're talking about his return, his triumphant return on Monday against the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, the benching of Michkov, Jack, was the talk of the town, unfortunately, and you can guess the timeline was as unsufferable as you could have imagined. So I guess before we get to the game and his performance, let's talk about the benchings, Jack, and how did you view them, and what were your thoughts during those two games while the team was down in Florida?
It was tough. You kind of felt something was coming the way Torts is and the way Michkov had already been called out for kind of not really getting back on defense. And, players like that, we understand that they're kind of cheating for offense a little bit, but we were going through a period where this team could not afford to have any man cheating. They needed all hands on deck to get possession of the puck. Their possession numbers last week, not the week we just went through, the week before that, were horrific. Their neutral zone play was horrific. And to be an obvious part of why you're not getting the puck or getting the puck out or getting the puck back, and it was just a barrage in our own zone for most games, which had a lot of people worried. It was coming, and I was only hoping to be one game. I knew we were going to catch a lot of flack anyway. Your Torch detractors, they came out with their torches and their pitchforks, and they were ready. They were protesting away. Get him out of here. I'm tired of his antics. And to an extent, I do understand it. I don't think it's like, the worst thing in the world that a player sits, because everybody's worried after what we've seen with Gauthier and how Kolosov kind of pushed things around. That we could piss him off and he'll just one out, and that's ludicrous. You got to give these kids more credit than the assholes that we deal with. Michkov is born to be a Flyer. He loves the team, the logo. He's competitive. It's a competitive Flyer. Obviously, he wants to play, but it's not something that's going to bother me unless it went for like a Morgan Frost 6 games, plays a game, goes right back out, something like that, which is ludicrous. He sat for 2 games. The team immediately started playing bad. I'm not saying it was he was a reason, but you can look at it as teams like, look, they're benching this guy now. They're benching this guy now. So we need to pick up our gameplay. And before we get into how the Flyers played this week, Gemma.
That's a comment from Dave. Drink up, Jack. As well as Farabee has played, he doesn't have the ability to bury it when he gets chances, and he's had plenty.
Yes, he has. And we're saying that with him having scored a goal. Still had lots of chances. He's not finishing on, particularly in overtime. Here we go.
There's one. 5 minutes in, shot one down.
Appreciate super chat. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. Okay. So let's talk Farabee real quick. So Dave wants to talk Farabee here. Dave says he doesn't have the ability to bury the puck when he gets chances, and he's had plenty. I'm laughing at Fancy Prunes here. This is a bad idea, he says. What do you think about this, Jack? And Farabee for me has kind of been floating under the radar somewhat, as he somehow does, right? Like, I guess because we're talking about the Michkov benching, and then he comes back, and now we're talking about the Frost benching, and a guy like Emil Andrae is up, who we're going to be talking about a lot later on in this episode. So let's talk about Farabee a little bit. For me, he's kind of like the forgotten guy again here. Is he kind of flying under the radar? Is he not doing what he's supposed to do? What do you think?
I mean, I've seen some encouraging signs, but because of Morgan Frost, that's kind of why he's going a little more unnoticed. And of course, he had a much better couple of games, does get a goal. He's in position. He's not finishing, but look at Tippett. Tippett was getting himself in position. He was hitting posts. He wasn't finishing, and then he started scoring. So maybe Farabee's done some work to get close to turn the corner. And obviously scoring is a great thing, but he's there. He's getting the opportunities. Really wish he would have buried that one in overtime. Win the game against the Cup champs. That would have been fantastic. But I think a lot of this is overshadowed because Morgan Frost is probably the most underperforming player. If you could say the two a week ago were on the same page, Farabee has taken steps forward. Frost has not.
Yeah. I'm just now looking at Farabee's numbers, because I even forget to look for Farabee because I'm looking at guys like Konechny, looking at guys like Michkov, obviously Tippett. Like, those are the guys that excite me. I don't want to say that I'm over Farabee. Yeah, we had that big discussion on him, I think, before the season. But he's not like, he's not one of the flashy guys or the guys I'm excited about anymore, because I think he's been around. This is his 6th season. He's got 7 points in 16 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, minus 11. There's a lot of players on this team that have big minus numbers. They've been, very bad 5-on-5 until recently, which we're going to get to. But, if I think he's playing top 6 minutes right now. The third line is Ryan Poehling, Anthony Richard, who I hope we talk about a little bit at some point, and Michkov. That's the third line. So Farabee, by default, I think is getting top 6 minutes. Let's see what he's going to do with them, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this in the offseason too, when we were talking about odd guys out. It was Farabee was the number one name of possibly making a trade or something like that. And that's after a year where he surpassed career highs and essentially across the board. But his end of season play was so poor that was what the conclusion we all come to. So for him to get started off a little slow, not nearly as slow as Frost, but he's also not a center. Like, he's a winger. We need centers desperately. That gives Frost a bit of a leash, at least this year. Farabee could be, if he wasn't playing well, there's plenty of people lined up to take his spot. So he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's spending some time. Their chances are there. If the chances weren't there, this is a different conversation. So hopefully this week coming up, he just starts to bury it. That's it. And looking at that San Jose game, like, no, they somehow won in a shootout 3-3. Well, I guess it'd be 4-3 technically, but they were up 3-0. They should have been up 8-0. Nobody could finish, could bury it that whole game. So, you know what? The whole team has had issues finishing, but some players come around to it like Tippett. So we'll see which direction he goes at the fork in the road. The way of Tippett where he starts playing, or is he going to revert back like a Frost?
Good point. Yeah, only one way to find out. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Good comment there, Dave, and thanks for the super chat.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's move on a little bit here. We were talking Michkov. He obviously was benched, and he's come back. It seemed like the plan. I don't want to get too much into trying to get into the psyche of John Tortorella, but it looked like the plan was, okay, Michkov's struggling 5-on-5. Let's give him some days off. He picked 2 road games, right? So he's not dumb enough to bench him at home, thank God. But he benched him against a team like the Florida Panthers, and he benched him against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 tougher teams. And, the Flyers finished that road trip 1-1-1, and they seem to have gotten their game back somewhat. And so I assume that was the plan, to figure things out and at the same time simultaneously give Michkov a breather. They bring him back Monday against the Sharks, who, one of the worst teams in the league, and they've been playing better recently. They beat the New Jersey Devils on Saturday night 1-0, so they were playing the Flyers on the second night of a back-to-back. And for 2 periods, they looked like they were playing the second game of a back-to-back. And I think we saw what we wanted to see from Michkov in that game, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he came back with a vengeance. Even on the penalty he took, which was a bad time to take a penalty, I couldn't help but like how competitive he is, as he's like punching Celebrini. Like he gives you a goal and an assist. The goal was a beaut. Just what he pretty much got in trouble for is one of the situations where he read the play better and it worked out on the breakaway. Yeah. But I mean, the other thing we're going to mention here, Michkov's return, exactly what we wanted to see. Wonderful, awesome. Keep it rolling as a team. I mean, I got a little worried about that game because they had such a good week up until like between shows for us. They played some tough teams outside of San Jose, and they finished, those 4 games 2-1-1. That ain't bad. And even when they lost to Carolina, they played a majority of that game pretty well. They deserved to get a point out of that game. They gave one up late. What are you going to do? I mean, that's pretty good. You took the champs to the brink. Now, you probably should have beat San Jose in regulation by a landslide, but them the breaks, I guess. But they still pull it out. So all in all, a good week. Michkov's back. Makes a statement in his game back. Scored in the shootout as well. I mean, goal, assist, shootout goal, and the W. But also, I'm seeing, and it's been all over Twitter and whatnot, he and Andrae have been having a connection there, which I love. And I don't know if you wanted to transition. I had to bring it up, but Andrae, how do you take him out of the lineup now? I mean, is he not exactly this is what I was thinking coming into the show about Andrae. I feel like if Andrae did this last year, the trade for Cutter doesn't bring back Drysdale. It probably brings back Rossi or something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up. There was a lot of good in that game against San Jose, and something that I want to bring up because I know we like to get really high on things. And Emil Andrae did look really good, and there was a bunch of guys that looked pretty good that night. I thought Tippett looked really good. Sanheim played a half an hour again. It was against the San Jose Sharks on the second night of a back-to-back. So,
yeah.
It's so fun to get excited, and I'm not throwing any cold water on a fire or anything here. Holy shit. So we'll get to Emil Andrae in a second. Let's get to Dan super chat here. Dan Knightley, thanks, Dan. I don't normally buy men drinks, but here you go, Jack.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
That's 10 Canadian dollars. So what is that in American? Like, there it is, down there.
Yummy.
2 shots in what, 10 minutes, Jack?
We are 14 and a half minutes into the show.
You work tomorrow?
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
So
there you go, boys and girls. No, Jack's off tomorrow, so keep them coming. All right. So let's get into Emil Andrae a little bit. So I like I said, I didn't want to kind of throw water on the fire because he looked great, right? He's 5'9", stocky build kind of guy. Everyone's getting to see him now, right? Like I watched some games with him with the Phantoms, and it's like, whoa, like this guy, there's some potential here. He's very calming presence, And you're seeing it on the timeline now. Like a lot of people are starting to realize, this guy has some kind of chemo characteristics here, very calming presence. You know what I liked most about him, though, the other night, Jack, on the power play? Sure, he can speed things up, but he can also slow things down. And it's not because like an Igor Zamula, who is just naturally slow. Like you remember last year, Tortorella put him on the power play, and he said because he slows the game down. And it's like, well, Zamula only has one speed, so he's doing that by default. Whereas Andrae can dictate play. He can decide, okay, we're going to speed things up here. And I think we saw that on that power play goal. They were kind of playing catch along the wall, he and Tippett. And I'm not sure if this is the strategy here. I think it is. So maybe we want to give some credit to Rocky Thompson, maybe a little bit. And maybe Andrae was kind of like a missing piece there, but it looked like they were kind of playing catch along that wall. And you have to respect Tippett's shot. So it sucks the D over to that side. And the way Andrae can facilitate, once he receives that pass, boom, he's back on the other side to Michkov. And at that point, you're racing back to the other side. And it's like, well, Michkov's going to shoot, right? No, it opens up the slot for TK, and he rips home the one time in the slot. It was beautiful, man. That was a thing of beauty. What'd you think about that play, man?
I mean, it was amazing. I went nuts when I saw that. I was like tic-tac-toe, and it was all the players. I like to see that Andrae and Michkov had the apples on that play was like beautiful. And only for Michkov to score later. So it was like, let's go. I mean, they could really be riding high if they could finish. And Michkov and Andrae would have more points if they could finish. It was unbelievable how many close goals they had, and TK especially. But I mean, you discussed this all the whole offseason, where I was saying the power play will be better simply because it has Michkov. I never said it'd be top 10 or whatever, and I am curious where they currently sit. Just, how they've been. But you were saying the shots need to get there from the point. You need to open up things from the point. You need the puck moving defenseman who can get the puck to the net. And we've been missing that for quite some time. I didn't think that was going to happen this year. I thought they were helping on Drysdale, but we knew he had the injury. And I'm seeing a lot of Andrae is everything we wish Drysdale was from Malcolm Razor here. And it's one of those things where I'm telling you, it's like, what are they going to do? Like, with their power, they can't move Andrae. He looks like he has a connection with Michkov. They're chatting before the game, messing with each other, and TK's looking like he's worth every cent of that contract that technically hasn't kicked in yet. I mean, these are pieces of the power play. If we can figure everything else out, they could be really lethal. And hopefully it can improve the 5-on-5 play. I think it already has. And one of my biggest issues is getting the puck out of their zone. And what did you said when he first came up is a lot of times Andre's first pass is out of the zone. It's forward. It's up ice where everybody else kind of hangs back and lets everybody set and change and then gets moving. And you're just making it more difficult on yourself. But Andrae can flip it quick and get it going and get more breakouts and whatnot. And he's just talented with the puck. He oozes confidence when he has the puck. I really miss that. I appreciate that. He's a steady Eddie back there who's talented. I mean, and if he's got a connection with your superstar and can play with the top players, I mean, I'm hoping it wasn't a fluke. He looks too good for it to be a fluke, even in simple plays. He knows what he's doing. He can protect the puck. I just trust him with the puck, and I haven't been able to say that about many Flyers for a long time, particularly on defense.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air to see a guy, a prospect come up that's not named Michkov and sort of succeed right away. It feels like it's been a little while since we've had that as Flyers fans, but like there's going to be peaks and valleys, right? But I think we're seeing what he is at the NHL level, which is kind of blowing me away. Like I never expect a guy, especially a young defenseman, to walk onto an NHL team and, just do what he does right away. Does that make sense? I always kind of, not that I expect, but I'm like, okay, they're going to find their footing here. They're going to ease their way in, kind of get in where they fit in type of thing. And then over the course of a season, we'll start to see his game pop out a little bit. Whereas Andre's come on, and I think he's been up for 8 games, and he's got his fingerprints, throughout the course of a game all over the ice. So It's really nice to see. They needed a guy like this to come up. So I'm going to transition to Drysdale a little bit here because I know. So Drysdale's out. They said he's banged up. I don't know how banged up he is, but when I hear banged up, I assume somebody can play. Still, you could play through being banged up. I think the play of Andrae has allowed them to, maybe let's give Drysdale a week or so off here, do the same thing they did with Michkov because he struggled 5-on-5, right? Like as much as I love Drysdale, I can be honest, like he's not up to speed yet. And we were saying that before the season even started with Drysdale, like, hey, don't expect him to be, where he's not going to be in midseason form first week of the year coming off the surgery, learning the new system, which if you saw him play in Anaheim, it was like there wasn't a system. He was kind of doing what he wanted offensively, and they were playing man-to-man defensively. So he's got a lot to learn here. And I think it's important for fans and especially the Flyers organization to realize that and be patient with them. We talked about Drysdale a little bit on the Dobber Prospects Report show last night. And to me, Drysdale, he's too much younger than Emil Andrae. So let's keep that in mind, right? Because we're singing the praises of Andrae, who's come up through the Flyers system and, he knows what he's walking into. There's no surprises for Andrae. He knows the system. Andre's been in the NHL for, I think, 4 or 5 years and hasn't had the same guidance, or at least the Flyers haven't had their hands on him the same way. I'm looking at Drysdale now like he's no longer a prospect. He's a project, right? So let's find ways to bring him along slowly here where we don't have to rush him and stun his growth anymore. Let's take our time. The Flyers are in a position where they can take their time and develop. They're not winning the Stanley Cup anytime soon, right? So, what's wrong with having them play third line, limited 5-on-5 minutes, and get him out on the power play too? Since Andre's playing power play 1, you have that luxury now, right? What do you think?
I mean, it's absolutely what they need to do. And I think you're seeing more of that. And I can't wait for York to come back to this team and just see how he improves the team. And the other thing is, like, when I look at all the good, I think of Zamula, and he's had another tough go of it. Like, he hasn't looked good. Like, when going into this season has been shocking in the sense that, at the very least, we're going to find out what we have because, like you said, Drysdale, it makes the most sense for him to be a project. Let him come along as slowly as need be. And if he has to take off this season for any time, for any banged up, or because we know he's injury prone and whatnot, having had the surgery in the offseason and you're not getting 100% of what he should be anyway, let this guy flourish for sure. But coming into the the preseason and the camps, it was like, well, we're going to really find out what we have in Attard, Attard, every time. It's the alcohol. Attard, Ginning, and players of that name, Zamula, and all 3 players have disappointed to the point where we were pretty much done with Attard immediately. He had one bad preseason game that I can remember early on, and he's gone. Now he's an Edmonton Oilers in their organization. Ginning, after I praised him, went full horribly, just turned his play around completely unreliable. He's basically a non-factor. These are career AHL guys at this point. But then Zamula is the one guy who you thought had maybe found a niche, and he's in the NHL and he's speaking Russian to Michkov. But when I look back at good games, I rarely can say, well, Zamula had a good game too, or anytime had a good game. It's rough having him out here. Eric Johnson's outperforming Zamula. I mean, he scores a goal the other night. Like, it's rough. He's young. They haven't given up on him, as Torts has said, but it's rough. And I really think that some people don't think he'll get sent down. I think he'll sit first, but for how long? And especially if Andre takes a spot, if York comes back, Sanhei's playing a ton of minutes, Ristolainen's looked better. It's really going to be probably a rotation based on injuries and whatever between Johnson, Zamula, and Drysdale. And if they want to give Drysdale, take him along slowly. And I think they view it the same way. I don't think that they're like, we need to see what we have in him this year. I don't think they view that way at all. If anything, they know what they like what they have in Andre, and it's like, let's let him flourish and kind of like what you had said. But like when it comes to Zamula, like I never envisioned him being a big piece, and I don't know if because we had such weak prospects for so long, he just kind of rose to the top name wise. But yeah, it's looking clear now who is going to be a guy and who isn't, and he isn't.
Yeah, it seems, and Keith chimes in here. Good evening, fellas. Remember that this is really only our first year with Drysdale. We might not see his development take shape for a couple more years, and that's certainly fair. 22 years old, we might not see the best Drysdale for another couple of years. Who knows? But let's get back to Zamula. And Keith cracks me up with his comment here. Zamula does in fact blow, and I think Torts likes him. I think that's why he's kind of sticking around on that third pair. He started out the same way last year, I thought, Zamula, and kind of got better as the season went on. He can be the steady Eddie third pair presence type guy, but at some point, like he's the type that's going to keep getting passed, right? Because he kind of just is what he is. So a guy like Andrae comes up, instantly passes him. A Drysdale I would prefer over Zamula. I think without an Eric Johnson, Zamula is your seventh pair D. A guy that you can keep around for cheap and you know what you're going to get. I think it was Dave in here somewhere that said he doesn't know how to use his size. And Zamula's tall, but he's not big. Like he's not filled out. So he will get pushed around a little bit. And I think where he messes up is it's like he thinks the game fast, but his body can't catch up. Like he knows the right play to make, but he takes just too long to make it. Does that make sense? And it gets him into trouble. Like you could see it. You can clearly see it. And he knows where to go with the puck, or he knows where to be on the ice. But there's like a second of hesitation there or something. So
yeah, the only time he seems really natural at the NHL level is some of the short times on the power play when he wasn't turning over the puck and giving up a shorthanded goal, when he was kind of, scoring when he did score on the offense, when he was doing that stuff. Very, very rare times, very short periods. And he's been this year an issue to the point where he's a net negative on the power play. That was your one true niche, outside of probably doing everything the coaches like you to do. But at the end of the day, I don't think he has the talent. And a lot of that is, you're right, the speed of the game. I feel like he'd make a fine AHL player when eventually they give up on him. But I just don't see him molding himself into anything more than a replacement level guy. And maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. Torts likes him for some reason. But I think he does a lot of stuff that coaches like. But at the end of the day, ultimately doesn't get it done. And what we thought might be extra kinks of his game, he's not going to get to use because he won't be in that position because you can't trust him. So I see him as a guy. There's no reason to really keep him around. That probably will at least this year. Maybe there's some interest gauged at some point. I don't know. But there's too many players now. You have Bonk is going to start knocking on the door. They've drafted other guys that are going to come around. Like he's only got so many chances. He was the furthest along, but this is so far as a big step back. And now with Andrae coming up, it's tough. You were already overloaded when you kind of had to make the deal for Cutter to get Drysdale, but now it's even more cluttered with Andrae. You're not moving anybody else from that D pairing? Are they trading Ristolainen? Probably not. I mean, we'll see, but probably not. Maybe Eric Johnson retires after this year. That's about the best you can hope for. Even then, that only puts you in the press box. So it's going to be tough for him to find time to play outside of injuries. And when he does, he's going to have to really turn some heads, and he's going to be digging himself out of a heck of a hole at this rate. And I don't see it. Oh, you're on mute.
No, I agree. And we'll see how things shake out. But one thing's for sure, you can never have too many D, right, Sam? I know he was busting my balls for a comment earlier. I forget where it was. I almost spit out my water, though. I think when I was talking about the power play and sucking the defense over to one side, he sucks the D. Yes, he does. All right, thanks, Sam. All right. So a lot of positives to get to on this show for a team that's 6-8-2. And, almost they did cough up a 3-0 lead to the San Jose Sharks, who were winless for about 10 or 11 games this year.
However, they were 5-2 going into that game.
Yeah. And they beat the Devils the night before.
But the back-to-back is like that game, if they'd have buried more chances early and going into the third period or the end of the second, it's like 5-0 or 5-1. Obviously, that doesn't happen. I don't even know if they scored those other goals, but because they let them hang around just enough, all of a sudden you're in a shootout there.
Yeah. And you can kind of see that happening. They had so many chances that they couldn't bury. And let me ask your opinion on this. And I want to know what the guys think in the chat too. And, for anyone that just chimed in a little bit late here, we're getting Jack drunk tonight, but we need super chats. Super chats get Jack drunk. So if you guys don't know how to do that, you're going to have to Google that, or ask Dave or Dan, because they bought Jack a couple shots there. So every super chat, Jack's taking a shot. Let me ask your opinion on this, Jack. Flyers are up 3-0 in the second period against the San Jose Sharks, who, by all accounts, are finished. Like, they looked like dog shit. Like, they couldn't move on the ice. They weren't getting out to the point. They weren't getting to the defensive assignments. The Flyers were moving the puck wherever the hell they wanted. And Nick Seeler decides to drop the gloves with Barclay Goodrow. And not long after that, a couple guys on the Flyers overstayed a shift. Owen Tippett ends up dropping the puck back to nobody, and the Sharks score not long after the fight. And from there, you could see the Sharks play a little differently. Now, I'm not directly blaming the fight, but does Nick Seeler have to drop the gloves there? Did you have an issue with that? Because I kind of did.
I didn't think about it until after the fact. At the time, it was just they were rolling so well in that game. I wasn't thinking about it, but I don't think it was too shortly after that it was 3-1. Yep. And it was like one of those things. Is like, I don't know if it's a huge deal. Team ultimately still shouldn't have let that happen, but there really is no point to fight at that point. You've already had a fight. You're protecting your teammates and whatnot. But at the same time, it's an emotional game. I can't blame them too much. It is what it is. I don't, sometimes you gotta. You've played, Jim. Hey, sometimes you gotta punch somebody in the face. And it just is what it is. No, it was unnecessary. I don't think it's the end of the world. But ultimately, there was no need for it. This team should have buried a lot more chances, though. That'll be the ultimate thing to me. This doesn't get out of hand like this. If they just, and my God, did they have some chances? It was ridiculous.
If they lost that game, I think I would have made a bigger deal about that, because there was no reason to give them any sort of momentum, to get anybody excited,
Hey, look at it this way. If the wheels fall off on this season and we're a bottom team, we just gave the Sharks a point,
Yeah. Yeah. It could come down to the Flyers and the Sharks. Yeah, I got what you mean. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about that Nick Seeler fight.
Yeah, how important it was to the success of the
team. All right. So let's there's one or two more positives before we start getting to the doom and gloom stuff with Morgan Frost and maybe Drysdale ending back up on the IR. And the guy that I really want to talk about, because I think gets overlooked a little bit, and tell me if I'm wrong, but Sam Ersson has been steady Eddie again.
Ersson has been great.
Yeah, he's just come in and he's doing his thing, and we're not really, batting an eye. But in his last, hang on, let me get the stat here.
I'll tell you what, I picked him for player of the game like quite a few times this season, and that's when they were also playing bad too. So when things were looking real down, he was playing well, and he kept that going outside of getting hurt. And I think that's helped this team stay in games, pull themselves out of the rut they were in, because they were still in games. And people just, I've seen a lot of like, oh, he'll be a good backup. I'm like, geez, like, can this kid get some credit? Like, I understand he fell off at the end of last year. People really not the whole playing too many games, especially in a row thing for a rookie. Like, some people just don't care about that. They're like, nah, goalie let him puck bad. So like they're holding that. I think those people who say that stuff are holding that against him, because you can't deny his play. Like, he's not Dominic Hasek out there. I get that, but he's done more than hold his weight. He's for the month of October, he's probably the MVP. I mean, yeah, you want to give it to the Michkov and TK because of points and whatnot, be my guest. But when it comes to keeping this team's head above water, that steady goaltending that you are not getting anywhere else has helped this team tremendously. And against some damn good teams and good players too. And you've already been in a few shootouts. What are they, 2-1 in the shootouts right now? And he's more than held his own. So you got to give Ersson a lot of credit.
Absolutely. And so in his last 5 games, he has a save percentage over 900 in each game, dating back to October 29th against the Bruins when he had the 25 save shutout. Go back to Halloween when they beat the Blues 2-1. So this is the Flyers. They decided to play the more defensive style. Let's figure things out. Let's go back a little bit, because there were some people out there that were kind of hating on Ersson, like when the Flyers were playing like shit in front of him. And, you could say the same thing for Kolosov and Fedotov, but let's kind of focus in on Ersson a little bit here. In that St. Louis game, he finished with a .952 save percentage. He ended up leaving the next game a little early against Boston, but he was 8 for 8 in saves. The Florida game, I think the game ended up going to the shootout. He had a .903 save percentage, and then the win against San Jose, .903 save percentage. And he's up over 900 save percentage for the season through 11 games. This guy had 4 shutouts last year. He's more than capable. The team has to do their part in front of him a little bit. But this is a guy, I've kind of been saying it, like, if the team plays well, Sam Ersson's not going to lose you games. As long as he's getting the proper rest, which is, where the backup position comes in. And it was one of our top 3 question marks heading into this season. But Sam Ersson on his own is a very good goaltender, and I think deserves a little bit more credit. There's a stat here. I want to try to bring it up, so give me a second. Kevin Kurz tweeted out something earlier today, and it was a pretty amazing stat here. Let me bring it up. Give me one sec. Here we go. It was loading. There have been 29 NHL goalies this season that have played at least 40 minutes on the penalty kill, and Sam Ersson's .977 save percentage leads them all. What do you think about that stat, Jack?
It just shows you how well he's been playing. I mean, he's been at the top of the league. That's why, for me, he's my MVP of October for this team. And any negative stuff is coming from, sometimes people watch like a one bad game. Like, look, I was at the Wild game. They won, but he gave up 5 goals. Like, it happens. But they're holding it against him from last year. He has been he's been amazing so far. And you can't deny that unless you just have to hate the guy. I mean, it's a shame. And if you watch the goals he has given up, it's very rare I watch a goal against Ersson where I'm like, that's on Ersson. Like, it's pretty rare. Like, I don't know how you calculate that stat. It's just called context from watching the game. Very rarely does he give up a goal that I'm like, he wants that one back. That was on Ersson. No, when he's giving up goals, he's getting hung out to dry. He's really been more than enough to keep this team competitive.
Here's another stat for you. So keep in mind that .977 save percentage on the PK. The Flyers have the second best penalty kill in the NHL, and they're second by 0.5 only to Nashville. So Sam Ersson deserves a shit ton of credit for that, So let's just keep that in mind, because I feel like we always kind of are looking for the next best thing, and we might have our starting goalie right now. I know Zavrajan's, down the line, but let's give Ersson a little bit of credit here. This is his second season. I think he's played a total of 78 games. I just had the stat in front of me here. He's played a total of 74 NHL games, 12 games in 2022, 2023, 51 last season, and 11 so far this year. Let's give him a shot here. I'm a Sam Ersson believer. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I like listening to him, after games. He's a accountability guy, which I love those guys.
Yes, couldn't agree more. I mean,
there was another comment.
He'll start getting credit. He'll start getting credit. He just got to keep it going.
Yeah. Sam. Boy, I can't wait to shit on Frost.
Some things never change.
Sam's on fire tonight. Sam, if you want us to talk about him now, you can.
You know the
super
way.
Chat.
Jeez.
Just saying. All right, let's read through some of the comments here. Fancy chiming in. I love Sam. He's dialed in. And all the national pundits just see the stats and write them off. Here's a question, Jack, and I'll kind of put you on the spot. I'll give my answer first, just to maybe make you feel a little bit more comfortable. But where do you see Sam Ersson rank? Like once he kind of gets going, like is comfortable, not necessarily right now, but like if he sticks as the starter, where do you have him ranked among other NHL goalies? If I said he was potentially going to be, a 12 to 15 type guy, like there's 32 teams in the NHL. So if he's like 13 to 17, I would say that's right in the middle of the pack, kind of average. If he's 12 to 15, that's slightly above average, let's say. Slightly above average to good. Where would you have Ersson?
So a lot of it's because of the sample size. I have him right around, between 15 and 20-ish right now. I just think there's a lot of good goalies. So it's hard to, rank them too high. And he also, like you said, 70. A lot of these guys have a lot more games on their plate. He's just stood at any challenge they gave him. He's taken it, and he doesn't complain or cry. He should not have been playing those games last year. He didn't complain. He did with the best he could. And he's had a full off season. He's got the proper spelling for when he needs a break and whatnot. And we talked about this before, how he found himself. He did a lot of mental training over the offseason, and for goaltendings, I feel like that's huge. And I said that in preseason because I didn't know that was a thing, and he said it was a thing. I loved it, and it seems to be working for sure. And if he keeps this play up the whole season, when we have this conversation again, he will be ranked higher for sure.
It's good points there. Great points by you. Okay, let's move on a little bit here to maybe some of our Frost talk. But first, Explicit chiming in. Nice to catch you guys live. Explicit, good to see you on here. Okay, so it looks like people are kind of getting ramped up for Morgan Frost. I think Sam said something about Frost. Rosario Gentile said something about Frost. And Linden 49, you'll get nothing for Frost alone. He has to be included in some sort of package. And let's get to why we're talking about, Morgan Frost trade talk again. He's healthy scratched. He was healthy scratched against the Sharks, which I kind of want to talk about that. And it looks like he's going to be healthy scratched tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa. Jack, what kind of message do you think it was to, scratch Morgan Frost against the San Jose Sharks, a team where, he has a tendency to rack up some points against bad teams? Is it kind of towards saying, like, I'm not going to reward you for the way that you've been playing so that you can rack up points against the Sharks? So I'm going to pull you tonight. I'm going to pull you at home against San Jose. Do you think there's any kind of a message there? I mean, obviously the scratching is a message in its own right, but do you think the timing of the scratch was a message necessarily?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we all know how he can be with lesser teams. Like he'll fill out his stat sheet against teams like, Arizona when they were around, and a bad team like the San Jose. And as much as you'd like to see him play in a game like that and score to get out of his funk, his play is just ultimately not there. Keep in mind the fact that Michkov draws back into the lineup and they want to keep Anthony Richard in the lineup. It made it easier to, Frost needs his ride to pine anyway, so why not? So it made sense from several fronts. But I am glad it came against a team like that, because we've seen him draw into games like this, pad his stats a little bit, and kind of not be the player that they want him to ultimately be. And hopefully he can draw back into a game where we're playing like the Rangers or something and score a big time goal or make a hell of a play. At the end of the day, this like voice in the back of my head, Jim, it's been going on for a little bit. It's starting to say Frost is going to be that player we look back on in like 10, 15 years. Hey, whatever happened to Morgan Frost? He's one of those guys, he had all the tools, he couldn't put it together. I mean, that voice is getting louder in my head. And there's a lot of discussion in the chat about potentially trading him. I do agree, if he is traded, it'll probably be, I would hope, for some package. I just don't know when that trade takes place. And if they're still within the playoff bubble, do they make a move at the deadline like they did last year about the future? Because his contract's up. Now, I do believe you can still trade him unsigned, because he'll still be a restricted free agent. But you really want to play that game? A player can hold out. You can have all sorts of issues. It would make most sense if they're done with the player to trade him as soon as possible. I don't see a trade like that happening mid-season. It does happen, but it's pretty rare. And what would a trade like that even look like? So I don't know, but I do think the rope, the length, the slack on Frost, it's running out. It really is. And I think even Danny's starting to see it. And it's like, if he can't draw back into the lineup and do something, we're going to have to make a really tough decision, which we all knew has been looming for quite a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think who else agrees here is Sam, and I'm trying not to laugh. Like I'm trying to focus and listen to you, but I'm reading through the comments, and how am I not supposed to laugh at this? Sam chimes in, Frost has no value because he blows. That being said, there are Chuck Fletcher level GMs out there.
There are. I'm telling you, there's guys that they can look at a player like Frost and they can be like, I can do for Frost what's his name did for Ristolainen. Our defensive coach name slips my mind. Brad Shaw. Thank you. There's coaches out there like that. So you get one of those guys to bite, you have a deal on your hands there. So it's just tough. If the team is moving a center when they have a position of need at center, it just looks bad. It's hard to get value unless you find somebody who really likes it. So I don't know how that happens. I do hope that they do something before they lose him for nothing. That would just be stupid and suck.
Yeah.
He's a notoriously slow starting player. He had a couple of almost, but he just doesn't do enough on the rest of the ice with the rest of his game to warrant keep trotting him out there and hoping he does it. You thought his skill set and Michkov's would mesh. They got away from that line pretty quick, even though there were flashes, but that's all that's what he is. He's a flasher. He gives you flashes here and there. Ultimately, he's not giving you enough scoring chances and opportunities to get his numbers up to where we would like. And he is still searching for his first goal. I mean, that is just rough.
Well, he did end up getting that. You remember
you're right. I wanted to talk about that.
To
talk about that. He did finally score on a goal that was the most Frost goal I've ever seen in my life. He had no business scoring that goal. He's swatting at an open puck, going slowly on ice. He completely whiffs. I mean, I guess he got. Did he ever touch it? Or he had to. If he got credit for the goal,
he did.
Maybe got a little piece of it that made it
like the hair on his stick. Got it. Yeah.
Oh my God! It had no business going in. Somebody should have gotten that out of there, but it just squirts in, and it's like you still get sad because it's like that was like a pitcher who can't get out of an inning, and somebody hits a screamer right at one of the players, so they get out of the inning. It's like, yeah, but that guy hit that ball off you 1,000 miles an hour. You got lucky. Like you're going through a tough time right now, to say the least. So it's like, I think it hit off his body, not even his stick. It's just ridiculous. And yeah, it's just, I always try to hold out hope. I'm big on sample size. I'm like, let's see what he has. No, this happened, that happened. Let him play consistently. They've done all that. He was not benched to start the year. He played consistently. He was there. You can't be this notoriously slow. I just feel like he's a guy who'll get some points against lesser teams. He'll pitch in against regular teams here and there, but ultimately, I think a lot of people are starting to turn it back on him in a sense. I'm not talking about the franchise, although maybe some of them are.
Just is what he is at this point, man. 25 years old. Believe it or not, there are still some people out there that will say he can be a potential 60-point guy in the right situation, and I don't see that, Jack. Do you? And if he is a 60-point guy in the right situation, I don't see, the other players benefiting from him. I see him benefiting from other players, kind of thing. Well, you know what I mean?
That was our fear with his contract coming up and him playing with Michkov. Like, he's going to juice his numbers, and then are you going to shell out the kind of money? You do need a center, and now you're stuck with him. You're really tied to him. Well, he couldn't even produce with him. So it's like, I'm not trusting that at all. What you just said is what he had happen this year with Michkov. And Michkov's not like he was starting slow. He's a rookie of the month. Yeah. He's off to a great start. So if he can't get it going with Michkov, well, who can he get it going with? If he can't potentially have a 60-point season with a guy like Michkov, Who do you have to bring in for him now? How much are we catering to the guy now? You're just doing it for his stats. Like, I think people are starting to see that it's like, no, he's a guy, but that's about it. He'll only benefit from others. Sure, can he play with a guy like that? Yeah, but that doesn't make you a good player. It's just a beneficiary of other talent.
Sam's on fire, man. He's just absolutely ripping Frost in the chats here. It's kind of funny.
Well, I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I think we're there. I think we're there.
And so Linden 49 brings this up, and I've been hearing this a lot, that he ends up in Toronto.
Isn't he from there? His dad was
his dad's up there. Yeah. That would be
the team
good for him.
You never know. I don't know what that trade looks like, or if he just signs there one day like Simmons did. But they talk about a team that needs anything but. But whatever. It wouldn't surprise me.
No. Okay, so let's kind of talk about the team overall, and they seem to be coming back into shape, into form a little bit. And let me ask you this: so the Flyers benched Michkov, obviously, and the team started to play better. There was a lot of talk, I brought it up a few times or tried to hint at it, that maybe there's something going on in the locker room and the team is slowly quitting on Torts. And then they sit, their rookie of the month, their rookie phenom, and the team comes out and essentially says, we're not giving up. We're not quitting. And if there was something going on, they probably would have went the other way. So I think any thought or any talk of the team quitting is now out the window based off the way they played the last 3 or 4 games here. Would you agree?
Yeah, no. And I was actually worried that blowing that game to the Sharks could reset what was a good week, because that's a team you have to beat. So to come away with 2 points, ultimately, it didn't give me the best feeling in the world, but it was still a good week, and you can build off of that. And I think the players are doing that. I'm glad I know they didn't win that game 7-0, but I'm glad they had that many chances. That shows how talented they are. And the main thing is we're getting the right players in here. We're seeing what we have in Andrae. TK obviously is a superstar. Michkov's back in the lineup and picked up right where he left off. We got more players are coming around, and York's going to come back, and Ersson's steady Eddie in goal. And it's good. We're going to find out who belongs and who doesn't, which is the whole point of this season. And we'll see what Danny does. And the ball's in his court at that point.
Yep, totally. Sam's been on fire, but I agree with this. And the comment is, for the podcast listeners out there who are not watching live, Michkov's play is not the brand of hockey that works for them, the Flyers. Michkov is the exception, not the standard. And that's a really interesting comment. The way the Flyers play is not Michkov. Michkov kind of plays his own style. And I think that was the whole point of the scratching, the healthy scratches, because he needs to at least try to play the way that the Flyers want to play. And he was the best player on the ice against San Jose. You could see in warm-up, he was juiced up. He was flying around in warm-ups. See, he wants to play. He said all the right things when they asked him. He said he watched, he learned a lot. And, we'll see. But it's going to be like any young player, it's going to be peaks and valleys. This won't be the last time, that we talk about Michkov's 5-on-5, unless he really is just, superhuman and can watch 2 games and fix everything overnight, But, it won't be the last time that we talk about Michkov's, 5v5 trouble. It'll get better as he, goes on.
He's 19. It's fine. That's why I didn't have an issue with him sitting. I didn't want to do the whole forever. But the way people were freaking out, I just had to turn my head. It's it's not – I get why you don't like it. You want to watch him play. I want to watch him play too. Sometimes these coaches know more than we do. I mean, what I saw, I can't complain. I really can't complain.
Nope. Totally agree. And so it seems, they had 37, 38 shots against the Panthers. I think that game was on Saturday. And then they had over 40 shots against the Sharks. And I don't really remember them coming close to those shot totals before that this season. We saw a lot of, under 25 shots or close to 20 shots a game. The Flyers were having trouble just being in the offensive zone, let alone generating shots on goal. So for me to see them finally getting pucks to goal, I mean, you can't score unless you get shots on goal, right? So to see them getting 35, 40 plus shots on goal, it's a good thing. I think things are trending in the right direction. They're playing hard again. They had a few lapses against San Jose, and I could pick that apart a little bit more than I'm going to. I'm going to try to stay positive here because they won. But things seem to be trending in the right direction. If they're going to make a push for the playoffs, there's a lot of season left. 6-8-2. They have Ottawa tomorrow night, who I think just shut out the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. And then they have on Saturday the Buffalo Sabres. So 2 very winnable games to get back to 500. What do you think happens there, Jack?
I think they'll probably either go to overtime and lose to Ottawa. Ottawa's better than we give them credit for. I think they're like a game above 500, but they have certain players on that team that have been playing better. And they got to go a little bit better goaltending, which has been a thorn in their side for quite a while. They could definitely win that game, but I think they probably split here. I do think they take care of Buffalo. Buffalo is still doing Buffalo things.
Yeah, they just had a couple big injuries too. I just saw that Matthias Samuelsson is going to miss some time, the son of former Flyer Shell Samuelsson. So that's a shame. He's going to miss sort of a homecoming game for him. And I think I saw Tage Thompson is also hurt. I don't remember with what, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is also considered day-to-day. Both missed practice today, according to head coach Lindy Ruff. So we'll see if the Sabres have those 2 important players for the Flyers on Saturday. But before then, they have the Ottawa Senators and Claude Giroux tomorrow night, Jack, flying up to Ottawa. It would be nice to get a win against their former captain.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Keep this positive train rolling as well.
Yeah. So I think we kind of ran through our topics here, guys. Did anybody so this was brought up for the second time here. I kind of missed it the first time. This is from our good buddy, Zach Steffel. Erik Johnson is 2 games away from 1,000 games. Think he gets the silver stick against the Avs on Monday. That would be really cool. That's one of his former teams. Now, he was also traded from the Buffalo Sabres last year, who the Flyers play Saturday. So if he gets this game tomorrow night and the game Saturday, it could be against Buffalo at home. So I guess either one of those games would make sense. Zach, if you had a preference there, Jack, where would you prefer to see that happen?
That's a good question. I would think at home. He's played for a couple of different teams. I think it was actually the Blues who drafted him, and he got traded to Colorado, and then he's been around from there. So let's just have it be here at home against Buffalo, who we got him from. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah. So good question though, Zach.
Very good question.
Yeah, and that's Erik Johnson. It feels like he's been around forever, man, hasn't he?
He has.
He had a hell of a goal the other night too.
I think he was the 06 draft. Like that's Giroux's draft. Like that's before JVR. Like it was. I have to look that up now. I'm curious, but
yeah,
a long time ago.
So we're talking about Erik Johnson, and he scored the first goal the other night within the first 2 minutes of the game, and then almost immediately after, on the next ensuing faceoff, he gets in a fight with Giovanni Smith. But I want to talk about the line of Ryan Poehling, Anthony Richard, and Matvei Michkov, Jack. Because you look at that line before the game, and you're like, what the hell is this? How's Michkov going to put up any points playing on this line? And coincidentally enough, that line contributes to scoring the first goal of the game. Anthony Richard with a pretty feed to Erik Johnson, and the Flyers go up 1-0 right out of the gate. Go ahead. You got that stat?
Yeah, well, I got.
I'm sorry. I thought you had it up.
No, Zach was right. So he was the first overall pick in 2006. I was right about that to the Blues. But I didn't realize this probably because he wasn't as prominent as a player. But he's played for Colorado for over 10 years. And as Zach points out, he won a cup with them as well. I have to change my answer. I think the Avs make much more sense. I thought he played for a few more teams than that, but no. But bulk of his career is definitely with Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. That'd be really cool. So I mentioned Anthony Richard earlier in the show, Jack, and Linden49 says Richard's growing on me. And I got to tell you, he was growing on me during camp. Like they gave him a nice long look. They gave him an extended look in camp. He played a lot of preseason games, and he's looked good. Well, he's looked solid in the games with the Flyers, because there are some plays where you're like, okay, this is why he's in the AHL. But then there are some times, like his speed, he's got NHL speed, where, you put him out there with a guy like Poehling who can also skate, and a guy like Michkov who can finish and set up. And it's like, okay, get it while you can, Anthony.
You just want the acronym. You just want it to be the RPM line with all that speed. People were talking about that. Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. But, the RPM line makes a lot of sense, except for Michkov. But he's got all the skills. So, I mean, if they get him there, I don't see them doing that. But it is intriguing. And it's got a great name to the line.
Yeah, he's fun to root for, too. So Brad Miller chimes in. James, that line on paper was like WTF, but they played great and oddly clicked. Yeah. Sam Fortunato chimes in. I like Richard. I need a bigger sample size. His speed is great. Maybe we're going to get that. He seems to be the guy that's getting his shot in the lineup while they're doing the healthy scratch thing. And I just wonder, when Frost finally makes it in, maybe there's a guy like Brink. There's still Brink, Forster, and I'm going to toss Farabee in that too. Those three guys are not right yet. Brink has had more jump of late, but Forster and Farabee, they need them contributing more offensively. Maybe they go down the line here. We'll sit you for 2 games. Richard picks them up. We'll sit you for 2 games. Richard picks those games up. And let's see what he can do. 2 points in 3 games, a goal and an assist for Anthony Richard. Good for him.
Take it. Going to keep Frost in the press box, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we're about an hour and 2 minutes into this show. I think we've kind of ran through our topics, Jack. You want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I got nothing else. Looking forward to a productive week. And I mean that more so on the players than I do the overall record, but they kind of go hand in hand. These are winnable games. Keep the positive vibes rolling.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for our episode, guys. Thank you for everyone hanging out in the chat. Thank you to Dave and Dan for the super chats and buying Jack a drink.
Thank you very much.
So the Flyers play the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night. We'll be back tomorrow after the game right here for the post-game show. Hopefully we're talking about a Flyers win and maybe a Michkov goal or 2. So where's the ending here? Thanks for tuning in as always. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. And don't forget to set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. That's going to do it, everyone. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
Thanks, guys. See ya.